in thought this morning, how do I support, encourage, and uplift you? And the thought that came to mind initially while I was sitting there was our connection to the infinite, to God, to the source, to infinite intelligence is individual. And yet how magnificent it is that we have a place such as this that we can all come together and in conversation, chat a little bit and get to know each other. And some of us form friendships that are a little more intimate, and some of us are passers through. But we find a place of connection and communion, so to speak, with the infinite here, but also here. Our connection to God and Spirit is individual and unique. And we might have a spouse, a partner, a friend, or somebody intimate in our lives who shares so much of that aspect of relationship, but may not agree with your agreement or your understanding of God within you. And that's okay. And we might have a group of friends who we all have different thought processes about in relationship to sports and politics and the cost of milk and heating, and we all may have different understanding of God, and that's okay. It doesn't matter what another person thinks, believes, or feels. What matters is what you think, believe, and feel in your connection to the source. We are all connected human beings, and that's the magnificence for this example of this church, this center, where we can all come together and hang out together and be in the same vibration together and be on Zoom together and be celebratory of our connection to the source. But when we step out of this place, this center, our connection to the source does not leave us because we've left the center or we've shut down our Zoom connection. Our connection to the source, to the infinite, to God, resides within us. Have you noticed in conversation with one another, you might talk about, well, let's talk about mediumship, since this is a spiritualist center, and that's one of the gifts and attributes that we get to celebrate in this center. And have you talked with each other about, oh my God, were you here last week when you got that message and I heard this and that? And you have moments of connection about the service and your experience. But also when you step away, you have your own understanding and belief within your being. I'm going to jump in story. I had the very good fortune of celebrating 50 years of my life. Yes, I'm 58 now, but having a party. And if any of you had known my father, Sharon and Rosemary, had the pleasure, I would hope, of knowing them then. He was a drill instructor in the Marines. And at my 50th, my husband invited people to either roast me or toast me. So my dad got up and first, of course, roasted me as my father would. But in toasting me, he said the thing he was most proud of was the fact that his son never let anyone tell him how to live his life. In other words, my father said, I'm proud of the fact that my son has lived his life on his terms. He didn't let anyone tell him how to live it, including me. High praise from my father at my 50th birthday. The point of bringing that to you, it doesn't matter what another individual thinks or feels about your connection to God, the divine. What matters is what you. In the moments when we struggle, and ladies and gentlemen, you see the parts of me that show up here in service that can be fun and wonderful, but you don't see the behind the scenes moments when I'm panicking over a cough or navigating a rotator cuff tear and exercise. And I'm using my own experience in humor. You see the magnificent moments, but in the moments when we struggle, we're given the gift of remembering. I think I shared with you when I had my hip replaced, I was having a particularly difficult day 3 days later with a walker at age 57, thinking, gosh, darn it, I don't want this. And my mother showed up and said, for all the times you walked with me from my bedroom to the community dining room in the facility, you were patient with me. I'm here supporting you. I wept. I was crying, of course, Mom. And then in typical mom fashion, get on with it, get moving. In the moments that we struggle, in the moment that we don't have our sense of self and our connection, in the moment we lose that connection with Spirit and God, let our memories be the reminder, and let our experiences here at this center and with other mediums and healers be the reminders. Let those moments help you to right yourself in the uncertainty of a moment. We had the great pleasure last night of sitting after spending the weekend in class, and in doing that, the three of us, Rosemary, Sharon, and myself, supported each other by allowing Spirit to work with us to give us encouragement, because when we're involved, and I say we, but I'm speaking to all of us, when we're involved in taking care of others, there are times where we forget to take care of ourselves. In the moments you have friends that support you, allow them to be the voice of encouragement. Don't forget your connection to the infinite God is also the voice of encouragement. In the moments there isn't someone physically present to you, able to give you that word of support or that pat on the back or that little boost that's needed, take a breath in and remember that you didn't want to say it this way, that you don't need the center per se. Don't get me wrong. You understand what I'm saying by that. You don't have to run to this space to have the connection. Go into the quiet of your heart and remember the connection that you have with Spirit from that. My office in Manhattan is on West 31st Street. I'm sorry, West 30th Street. I always say West 31st because that's where I come out of Penn Station. But there's a church right there, and every now and then I will run into the church just because I was raised Catholic, and I like to walk around the church, especially at holiday time, because I like the feeling of it. But I also feel when I step out that I'm still in church. When I'm walking up 7th Avenue to go grab lunch and the sun is shining, because I feel myself in being still connected to God. And while the structure, the edifice, the old Roman Catholic Church holds a special place for me in the sense of walking in, it's not the structure and edifice that reminds me of my connection to God. And I'm saying this for you, that while I'm sharing some words here and some encouragement and some of the energy of Spirit through me for you, it's not about Richard Schoeller for you. It's wholly an energetic reminder to you. Do you feel your heart singing right now? Do you feel a sense of well-being resonating within you, irrespective of my words? Do you feel a sense of all is well? God and Spirit are talking to you directly. I stood here and spoke and recited an old-fashioned yellow book telephone book in the names. It could be irrelevant. That's not entirely true. You'd fall asleep. But the energy of God and Spirit moving through, helping to remind you and reverberate within you, helping you to remember your divinity and that connection to God. The center is great. The experience of coming together, wonderful. Each and every one of you are the walking, physical expression of divinity. Each and every one of you have that divine connection to God. The beauty of being physical is in the moment when we struggle with life. And we can turn to a friend or a partner and get that reassurance from without ourselves, from outside of ourselves. How magnificent. And in the moments when we need to be reminded of our divine self, I remind you, go back to your heart, because in there lies the connection to God. Thank you.